Tonight is really in part, um, really to inspire people to see that yoga and Ayurveda is so much more than an exercise class. And almost when we approach yoga and Ayurveda as simply an exercise class, there always seems to be a point where, we kind of can hit up against a wall and go, why is it not working anymore? But I liken it to the idea of like playing a piano. It would be like going and, saying, okay, I'm going to go take piano lessons, but, I really want to stay with all the nursery rhymes. And I never want to do anything more than learn to play nursery rhymes. I don't want anything to do with the scales. I don't want anything to do with learning to become more advanced. Just show me what keys to push, and what keys to push so I can play the nursery rhymes or like chopsticks, and I never really have to learn anything more. Well, eventually you're going to be like, piano's boring. I don't really want to play that anymore. What's the point? Yoga is exactly the same way. Anybody that just stays with general classes, eventually there's going to come a point where it's like, I don't know that this is working, because if you just stick with just memorizing the nursery rhymes, not really learning the scales or the principles, and then not blossoming forward into what's more, the mind naturally starts going and searching for something more. So really, and what we're going to see here tonight with the people that we have logging on, we're going to have people like you, Barbara, that you don't really know me that well at all. And we're going to have people on here that are very senior level students, like at doctorate level training. And the main reason for that kind of that wide expanse is because we are synthesized in our learning and understanding that we always kind of need to remember why. And the best way we synthesize anything and allow it to expand and grow in a real positive way is always having that remembrance of, why am I doing this? What's the purpose? What's going on? And we will, so I'll cover that. And then, I will get into some nuts and bolts that, if people want to move forward beyond general classes, like into, our master's path programs or things like that. But I'm really, my main focus will be on going into kind of our first foundational level training, and probably about half the group that's on here has either done it or is in it, and then the other half not. And then from there, I'm just going to be really open to any questions, because if I've got somebody on here that's already in Virupa 1 and you're like, well, I was thinking about Virupa 2, or I was thinking about Acharya Rupa, and what's the deal with that? Why would I want to do that? Those are great questions to ask. So my hope is that everybody on here has something that they really feel like that they can walk away with, feeling like you understand a little bit more. For those of you that have been, training for a really long time, always being reminded of your why and allowing that to expand, I think is even more crucial. One of the most important things in the world is that, we want to, it's kind of like, if I go and brush my teeth, I can't just brush my teeth one time and then think I'm done. Yoga training is the same way. I'm not saying that one should, kind of morph into some kind of psychological obsession, with the concept of yoga and Ayurveda. But what I am saying is, in the same way you're not obsessed with brushing your teeth, but you still have to do it every day. And the more you do it, the better the better gum health you have, the better teeth health, the better your teeth are going to be, and that's the same thing here. So there's like a very fluid type of balance that you want to find, where you just really kind of can eventually learn to just fully devote your heart to your training, but really look at your results based on how functional you are in your life. That is an extremely fluid, fluid place to find. And, Kristen, I think I left you a Marco Polo this morning a little bit around something just like that. And training in yoga and that fluidity I'm talking about, and I shared with Kristen this morning, it really is a lot like if you've ever rescued a little bird, and you put the little bird in your hand. I don't know why, but I don't know. When I was a kid, we had a lot of trees in our yard. We always had these birds, falling out of the trees. And, and I remember one of the most important lessons was, you want to, my heart wants to care for the bird, so I might pick it up and hold it in my hand. But if you squeeze it too hard, in other words, you get obsessed with trying to hold it, then you can hurt the bird. But if you just go, forget that, then you can also hurt the bird. But in fact, whenever we approach yoga training, it's really learning to find that space where, as a metaphor, the whole of your life is like in this space. And the process of your yoga training is really learning how to sometimes you need to kind of close in a little bit more. Sometimes you need to open it up a little bit more. And then a big part of your life being like your wings spreading and growing stronger. And interestingly, at each stage, when you're growing, sometimes, you need to kind of bring it in a little bit more, get more focused on your yoga training and, and kind of hold it in a little bit more. And sometimes it needs to relax up a little bit because you need to let your wings spread. And a really great teacher, at least I've been taught anyway by my great teachers, that really learns how to support and guide, in that kind of thing. And with that being said, I would like to bring up, if you wouldn't mind, Dee, I think most of you may have gotten this particular handout, but don't worry about pulling it up now because we're going to put it on. And these are called the Purusharthas, or the goals of life. And I've also put together here where you can see in this beautiful little pyramid here how it lines up with Maslow's hierarchy of fulfillment. And so pretty much the same, but as you see 1, 2, 3, 4. For a meaningful life, and the idea behind yoga and Ayurveda. This is really kind of an overarching life goal. And the first one being, the Sanskrit term is artha. Artha is the mastery of meeting basic physiological safety and security needs. And this just isn't a matter of, okay, I've got plenty of money in the bank and, got the roof over my head. I'm not talking about as defined by our society. Mastery of artha is truly, first of all, having the ability to truly define for yourself what that is, and to really be able to kind of push your wings out into that and be able to feel full freedom in moving about in that. And second, the term kama, love, belonging, and truly really making sense of your life, of your world, living kind of the hero's journey, kind of the mythical life of overcoming, feeling deep connection with others, seeing, the term is Shri, like the beauty in all things. And, some of you have heard me say before that we find what we're looking for. And really, with the untrained mind, the untrained mind tends to see things from good, bad, right, wrong, ugly, this, that, these opposites. But from this idea of kama, it really is the ability to look at all things with this sort of more artful and philosophical eye from the heart, and and actively look for the beauty in all things and in all people and in all situations. And then next, Dharma. The term Dharma is the contribution of something larger of oneself, building community with a clear purpose through family and work. And while many of you that are been working with me for years hear me always talk about train, 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 be here, train, train, ultimately your results are seen in truly the depth of family, the sustainability of your work, and the sustainability of your purpose, and really feeling a sense every day of having a real reason for waking up, and really making a deep request of your body. Because what I find is that the more I wake up with a sense of purpose every day, the better my body feels. I can even feel in the depths of the doldrums, and as I move through my own process of what I've learned, man, it's like sometimes I feel like, I can just come moving out of it, like a superhero, truly. And I do feel that mastery of Dharma in my own experience brings such clarity in everything and can allow you to move through so much with such power, and particularly in the incredible, diverse, and tumultuous times that we're in now. This mastery of Dharma brings such a kind of a reconciling to things. And then finally, the term moksha. It really is this living, very human experience of transcendence of the everyday human experience. So really being able to experience such complete peace and optimum well-being and thriving in the face of whatever within your own humanity that you might experience. Where truly what begins to happen is it's not that your human, challenges and things, it doesn't mean that they go away, but instead your perception of separation between you and the other begins to dissolve, and you start to see things from a much more whole perspective. And when the human mind begins to view the world from a wholeness, then that crocodile brain that we all have, that survival brain, is soothed and comforted, and you have less of these experiences where it likes to open its big jaws and do whatever it can, to survive. And so moksha is a very important part of our life experience. And if you notice on the pyramid, right, you can see the rainbow in the center, and just that's Maslow's hierarchy there, and how that so nicely lines up with that. And of course, for Mahatma Gandhi, a meaningful life involves serving others. And in the 7 core functions of Rasa Yoga, the ultimate core function in life is relationship intelligence, because in truth, that really is what it's all about. And I'm not just talking about the idea of, this personal relationship, and that, I have this kind of claim over you type relationship, but like a healthy relationship in our body from one cell to the other, and what true regenerative, healthy relating really is. And of course, Viktor Frankl from Man's Search for Meaning, one of my absolute favorite books in the world. The meaning of life lies in finding a purpose and taking responsibility for ourselves and other human beings. By having a clear why, we can face all of the how questions in life. And it is true that really being able to place meaning on life, it always triumphs over the goal of being happy. Happy is an ephemeral experience, but meaning is something that stays with us no matter what. And so, thank you, Dee. We can bring it on down. And so that's simply a brief overview of truly kind of the bigger overarching purpose for our entire community, for me, why I get up every day, and why I do what it is that I do. And the way that we do that is, first and foremost, we begin with the physical body, because we've got to address the physical body, and then we address breathing and basic respiratory efficiency and how we think. So really how we move, how well we breathe, and what it is that we take in, the quality of what we take in, and how we think. And on all three levels, really the quality of what we consume. So how we think, how we move, and what we consume. And with that being said, we really kind of begin with looking at, just like when you come to general classes, we look at the idea of your body, your breath, and your mind. You want to think of them like three fish, and you want them swimming together in a coherent way. You don't want fish kind of losing their little fishy mind and kind of getting crossways with each other. And so the basis of everything begins with this synchronization of the breath, the body, and the mind. When the breath, body, and mind are truly synchronized with each other, then you develop the mastery of being able to self-soothe and to truly calm yourself. And then that begins to give rise to mastery over emotions, which Rasa Yoga, the term actually basically means emotional intelligence. And then from mastery over emotions, we begin to gain a great deal of mastery over mind. And the way that our school does this is that we are all the way around a teaching school. We're not teacher centered, we're training centered. For those of you that have been in Master's Path a long time, you know that sometimes you might come to me with an issue or a problem, and well, what do I do? And the first thing I'll want to say is, well, how's your training going? Right? What's happening there? You know, and sometimes it's like, I just want the answer. It's like, well, that's not my job. My job isn't to give life's answers. My job is to direct you to a place to where you open to life's answers. Because as many of my Indian family would say, all knowledge is coming, all knowledge is coming. We simply have to become that open vessel for it to come. And it's a very real thing. I've been practicing yoga easily for over 30 years now. I can't even begin to tell you what a huge difference it's made in my life. Many of you that are in Master's Path on here, I am doing a special being yoga. Monday night, there's a video going out that many of you will be receiving. Make sure that you watch that because I don't want to get into that now and sort of derail. So make sure that you guys watch that because now more than ever, I feel like what we do is going to be more and more in demand. Now, before I move forward, I just want to see if there's if there's something really specific you're wanting to make sure that I cover tonight. Because I'm gonna be bouncing super fast. Like I'm gonna move through stuff very quickly because there's a lot to cover, and I won't be able to cover everything, but I would like to be able to touch on points that are important to you guys. I'd like to hear from a couple of you right now, just kind of giving a brief, just something from your heart around. Just first kind of share who you are and what level of training you're at and just a brief why from where you are now. I know that why grows. It definitely grows and expands over time, but just that why and where you are now.
My name's Denise, and I am in the Guru Parampara training. I have been training since 2006, And I cannot imagine what my life would look like, where I would be without having stepped into this training. I was just reflecting earlier, like how I was very drawn to understand yoga and Ayurveda. I was fascinated with it when I first started practicing, but there was a lot of healing that I needed that I wasn't aware of at the time. And just in the process of being constantly directed back, it always has come back to training, and through the different experiences that Padma sets up. She sets up experiences so that the knowledge it becomes your own, and then you're always directed back to meet yourself, and there's just always another step. So it is such a fascinating journey. Teaching is an important part of that journey, but I wouldn't have known that at the very beginning. I just thought it would be I could imagine teaching. When I started, I was one that was like, yeah, I think that could be fun. I was open to it, but I had no idea. And it really is, it is fun, it's challenging, and there is not any better way you could spend your time.
Thank you, Dee.
Welcome.
I might end up calling on a few of you, so.
So my name is Sherry. I just enrolled in Vera Rupa 1 in August. So I'm brand spanking new. I'm here to listen to Padma. I'm still looking to start with the very basics with grounding. My why is because I want to bring joy to other people. How I will do that, I do not know yet. It's a journey.
Thank you, Sherry. I'm happy to see you.
Happy to be here.
Go, Araceli.
So I'm Araceli, and I first came to the studio in 2010. I say I was a reluctant student, but because it took me a while, but I really wasn't. I started. I was taken with the teachings right from the start, and I look back and I think that I had settled kind of with a mediocre. I didn't know that their life could be better, and at that time my kids were teenagers, and there was a lot of stress from parenting teenagers. And I'm a psychiatrist, so I know a lot about, the theory behind all that. In fact, I'm a child psychiatrist, child and adolescent too. But I was drawn to yoga because although I thought it was awkward and I didn't like it at first, that I found some relief for anxiety. And I got a taste of that, and so that's what had me coming back. And what I have discovered really is there's just so much more to life. My life feels so full and vibrant, and my relationships, my kids are now 28 and 26, and that my relationships with them have improved, a lot. Not that they don't still stress me out, but it's a totally different, it's a different perception now. And I just, feel like I'm alive now. That's, I guess, what I'll say. I feel very vibrant inside and out. And I'm 60 years old now, and I'm stronger and can do a lot more than I could in my 30s. So I'll say that too. I feel like the physical was just like the added bonus. I really came for the mental, but I see a lot of physical benefits also.
Thank you, Araceli.
Padma, this is Barbara. I just have a comment as a newbie.
Oh, there you are. Okay, it takes me a minute to dial in. Yes, Barbara?
I'm right next to you. But
yeah, I know, right?
You never know. But when I think of yoga over the years, I've always thought of just kind of an exercise class, so to speak. So when I attended just trying to think, yoga nidra, maybe? Nidra? Yeah. I think it was on Saturday or Sunday. I can't remember exactly what it was. But it was two different kind of classes. One was more of the physical. One was more of the meditation. And I thought it was fantastic. So I guess what I'm trying to understand, which I didn't understand before, is that I always thought of yoga was just a yoga class. You go to I don't know, you go to, you know, another type of class that's kind of exercise oriented versus yoga. But it does seem like a couple of the women here have communicated the inner parts of yoga that this is encompassing. So maybe during this, I don't know, session or whatever, we might be able to address kind of like how does that complement each other regarding doing the physical and then also the mental, or is it one and the same, or is it not?
Well, I can thank you so much for that, Barbara. I can touch on it briefly. So one thing for sure, we're quite distinct because there's yoga studios and there's yoga schools. And mostly what you have is a more Western version of a yoga studio, which simply is a yoga business. You know, it's not necessarily a school. And we're a school where, you know, there's all these stages, and even in general classes, you're kind of always being prepared for the next stage. You know, like if you're in school, you're in grade 1, you're prepared for the next grade, but it's a little bit more synthesized than that. Now, so that's the synthesis there. Now, we know now, in Western science, we know now what sages and rishis wrote in what is referred to as the Vedas thousands of years ago. It's, you know, what you learn at Rasa Yoga is stuff that neuroscience is just now coming out with, you know, like books like Molecules of Emotion by Candace Pert. Basically, she's writing about Rasa Yoga, you know, in the terms. And the idea being is that, you know, first of all, the brain, we know now that the brain continues to regenerate and grow. You can have strings of neurons that are, you know, that are pattern that are from patterns that are no longer functional, and that it can actually be transformed. And so we know in neuroscience that the brain can be transformed, new patterns can be created, and that the way that we think, right, in our nervous system then triggers chemical reactions in the body, you know, through the endocrine system. And from the endocrine system, our tissues and the rest of our body and the quality of the tissues and the rest of our body is then formed. So the physical body in and of itself can't really be changed, because from the perspective of yoga, when you think in terms of your physical body, whatever it is that you can see right now is going to be gone tomorrow. Like the skin that's on the surface of my hand is going to be gone tomorrow. That's new. It's going to be brand new skin tomorrow. And the entire body regenerates every 7 years. And the quality of that regeneration, we know for certain now. It's not just some yogic theory, like whenever I was teaching this in the early years, so that people would people can't really poo-poo it away anymore, because I don't feel like Western science proves everything, but if it helps the Western mind, then I'm all for it. You know, and so it's just understanding that the body is basically a chemical system, and the way those chemicals function, depending on the type of chemicals that are released, is directly correspondent to your frame of mind, the types of thoughts you're having, whether you're in survival, fight or flight mode, or whether you're in what's referred to as creation mode. If you're in creation mode, then the body is releasing these, you know, wonderful chemicals, and you're thriving, it's regenerative. And if your mind is more, really the sages would say death mode. If your mind is more in survival mode or kind of death mode, then the body is, the way it's regenerating is not as healthy as it can be. So that's sort of a quick overview, kind of the very Western view of the connection of the body, the chemical body, and our manifested body. You know, we can hold a posture for a long, long time And really, what we're really doing is training the nervous system and the neurotransmitters and how it's talking to the muscles, teaching the muscles how to behave differently. To teach the muscles how to behave differently, it starts with the mind. But of course, the body has to move. Just like your body's an instrument, right? If your body were, I used to play the trumpet. If your body were an instrument like that, well, it takes something to play an instrument. It takes the knowledge to play the instrument. The instrument of itself, it just kind of lays there, and it's just an instrument. And that's the body. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. It does show a correlation between the two. And again, very primal here. It's like, do I take a yoga class? Do I take a jazzercise class? Or do I go to the gym? It's like, I've actually thought of it that way, but now, since I know, I'm a longtime friend of Laura's.
Yeah.
Loves your studio, and I got from her that it's much more than just this physical of going in and doing the movements and leaving. It's much more part of your whole being, so to speak. So I thought that was kind of super cool.
Cool. And you're welcome. And really, one of the most important purposes behind this talk really is, to me, is for everybody to really understand that they really do have that inner GPS, that inner guidance system, and really learning to be able to listen to it. But at the same time, really what I want to do here is just kind of offer to you guys really that more expanded version of yoga and Ayurveda, and really what's available to you. And not all people want it, and that's cool too. It's like, I am a complete, nerd, yoga and Ayurveda nerd. But I'm about to be 60 as well. And I started practicing at 28, and I can't even imagine, what life would be like, if I didn't. The way I feel, like everything, and one of the biggest things is like to really understand. I'm going to talk about this on Monday night for you being yogis and the coaching session people. We don't really train so we don't fall. Training is not so you don't fall or you don't get this or you don't get that, but you really train for whatever's presented to you. You don't train to try and not make things happen, or I'm going to make this thing happen. Really, it's more about developing a sense of contentment in the moment, but being so wildly warrior-like, ready for whatever is put into your lap. And just really being able to, take it in, digest it, and create something much bigger and better. And you guys have heard yoga and Ayurveda. The one way to look at it is Ayurveda is the teaching and the study of the what, why, where, when, and yoga is the how. And the two go together. One cannot really exist without the other. And so it's very important that the two are studied simultaneously. Now, when you take general classes at Rasa Yoga, I've heard from most people, and I do believe it to be true because I've been to other classes, but a lot of people that have done teacher trainings and things like that at other schools, they come to our general classes and they're like, God, I learned more in one general class than what I learned in a teacher training. Because our classes really are more like, they're school-like. There's a very specific system. We really follow along a sustainable system, and it works. It's a process of learning. For those of you that are on here, because you see the part around awakening inner teacher, and Dee brought up the idea of teacher, we have and what I'm going to go right into, we have kind of from our general classes, we have our more formal master's path programs. And, it's kind of like moving from pre-K to kindergarten to first grade, and then, from primary school, moving on to secondary school, and so on and so forth. But the idea of teaching as a goal is not a really great goal to have. Teaching is really seen more as a means to mastery and absolutely necessary. And it doesn't mean that if you're training with me that you have to formally teach, but it does mean in one way or the other, it's going to need to go in and then back out of your mouth. Again, you will have to speak it. You will need to say it to someone in one way or the other. And so for those of you that are like, I don't even know if I'd want to do that or if I'd want to teach, it's kind of like going to a general yoga class. Yeah, I want my body to be in great shape, but heck, that's just something that's going to happen no matter what. If you show up and you practice every day, you're going to feel great. Your body's going to feel better. You're going to be stronger, more vibrant. It's a byproduct. And the same thing here holds true. If you're interested in being really a great yoga and Ayurveda teacher, and you stay with it no matter what, you will be a great yoga and Ayurveda teacher. And what I define as great, I'm not talking about like a rock star that has the hottest playlist and the fullest classes and the hottest, sweatiest. I'm not talking about any of that stuff that's usually defined in the Western world by a great yoga teacher. I'm talking about somebody that's effective, somebody that inspires people, empowers people to get the results that they seek as far as living a vibrant and full life, because that's all that really matters. And when I say that we're training centered, not teaching centered, I walk my talk with it. It really, really is extremely true at our school. And that's really what I mean by that. And that teaching is a very important part of mastering anything. There's an old proverb, I don't know if I'll have it just so, but it's something like, if you want to get familiar with something, read about it, and then ultimately, if you want to master a thing, you've got to teach it. So, I'd like to hear any other questions before we move on. What I'm going to do whenever we're complete, I'm going to, because what I'm about to do is we're going to go to a couple of our pages in our curriculum guide. It's going to pop up on the screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you kind of an overview of what it looks like if somebody wants to move on in their training. This isn't some sort of like, sales program to get you to do it. It costs money. There's tuition. But, I really think it's important that people do it that want to do it, not because I've convinced them to do something. So you want to know that ahead of time. And no matter what happens when you walk away from this, if you just stayed with doing general classes, I feel like it's a huge win if you walk away from here having a sense of what it means to really be a yogi, to really train, and what's really possible for someone in life. That really is a big, big thing for me, to impart to you. And at the very end, we do have kind of a list of frequently asked questions. So it may be questions you haven't thought of before that will pop up kind of at the end. And then from there, if it sparks any other questions, I'll do a close. I'll do a closing, and anybody that wants to stay on and ask more questions, you can. There's just a certain amount of time I'll stay on, but I'll be happy to do that, after we're done. So without further ado, we can start with that page, D, that I popped in, the first one. I think it was 5. There, you got in your email a curriculum guide. And in your curriculum guide, you're going to see this page. You don't do it now, But I'd like to encourage you to complete this. It's like without any limitations or obstacles, what words describe your ideal experience in life? And what are 3 values that you would really like to be building your whole life on? And then on a scale of 1 to 10, how strong is your desire to move toward your vision? And, just kind of take a look at it. Like 10 is whatever it takes, as long as it takes. And 1 is I want to, but I'm okay if things stay as they are. So, and anywhere on that scale, is free for you. And I think that is a place that one must start. If they're really considering moving forward in yoga training and upgrading, if you're like at a 1, that's good to know, or a 2, that's good to know. Hang there, and just let this spark some new ideas in your mind. Okay. And then next, this is a general overview. We call this the Starburst chart of the 3 stages of a yogi. And they're warrior, scholar, sage, and kind of the foundational level of training. And that happens to be the one we have on promotion right now. The term Vira Rupa actually means the embodiment of the warrior. And so in that stage of the warrior, that in the scholar, the sage, that's how our training is based on those particular 3 stages. Okay. Next one, Dee. And an overview of our training courses. We are a Yoga Alliance registered school. We also have the most advanced, or we're not the only school that has this, but we're one of, 40 or 50 on the planet that has, we have one of the most advanced accredited programs in our highest level Chikitsa program. This is a really esteemed accreditation program to have. And then also in the other powers that be in the United States of the Yoga Alliance Registry, we have every possible designation that you can imagine for every single program. And we have had it for quite some time. So the first one you see there is the RYTT 200. I'm not going to be focusing in on that one tonight. I will kind of show you the tuition chart. So later, if you want to look through your curriculum guide, you can take a look at the tuition chart. But just kind of showing you. And these are not necessarily linear. And, they're not necessarily like you have to go step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So you want to, just kind of giving you an overview that is not necessarily, that's not the case. One could do RYTT 200 as a standalone. That is primarily for someone that wants sort of a press the information quick, get through it. It really is, honestly, the people that are most interested in it in our school are our most advanced people in Guru and Parampara and Acharya Rupas. Half of them took the RYTT 200 or even our Vira Rupa ones. I think Cecily's on here, and Cecily is, she's now enrolled in Acharya Rupa, but she also took the RYTT 200 as well. I think Deborah, we've got quite a few others, Sue, and basically the RYTT 200 takes our very first level, Vira Rupa 1, and sort of compacts all the information, and you're just really kind of fed the information, and you can get that Yoga Alliance Registry designation. And so there's that. And then you can see we have our Ayurveda training paths. But I want to kind of come on down to that third block. The third block, this is kind of our biggest focus. And this is the majority of, kind of where the majority of people train. And my biggest focus tonight will be around Vira Rupa 1. Primarily, we've got that on promotion, and it's just kind of there for you if you have an interest in that. Vira Rupa 1, you see that little red square. That's kind of the first step in the most formal Master's Path training. That's what I mentioned earlier, is the embodiment of the warrior. We have some people on here that are in Virarupa 1 that already need to consider either moving into Acharya Rupa or to Virarupa 2. And then you can see what Dee mentioned, and I think Araceli spoke. They're in that red block, Guru and Parampara. And so that's just this is just to give you an overview, not to give you some deep understanding, but just a general overview. We've got people that are formally enrolled in Master's Path, Vira 1, Vira 2, or Acharya Rupa, and they're not even sure what's going on. So it's good for them to be on here so they can see that. And then if you kind of go down to that bottom block, again, as an overview, you see the Rasa Yoga Chikitsa program. There are prerequisites. That's the program I was sharing with you that is really super highly esteemed across the planet. For us to have gotten that accreditation, we were academically peer-reviewed, we were medically peer-reviewed, and IOIT is a highly respected organization primarily focused on dollars toward research around Ayurveda and yoga and our future. And, anywhere you read, I mean, if one decided to dive even deeper into yoga and Ayurveda, if you'll remember when you were in school, how you'd have those career fairs and they'd say, what are the most promising careers of the future? Well, this is one of them, no doubt. But definitely not going to be an easy path, because it's more than a matter of just gathering the information. That to truly be effective, you yourself must be, in fact, moved and transformed by the yoga itself to be able to really administer it. And, so that's a broad overview. And let's see this is just to kind of help your brain get a sense of where we are. What's our next page, Dee? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you one picture of a chart of what I'm talking about. And this is all more for orientation than anything, just to kind of orient you to what we're talking about. So Virarupa 1 training is for the student in the beginning stages of the warrior's path. It's really great for developing a deeper commitment, consistency, and accountability. And it truly is a foundation of practice. It's great for people seeking personal development and is a prerequisite to the more advanced training paths, particularly the Rasa Yoga Chikitsa program. And what the Virarupa 1 training consists of is right here in this chart. You'll see that term krama, that actually means sacred stage. And this is not linear. It doesn't mean that you have to start here and end there. Everything is very kind of varying levels of entry. But this is really a great time for people that are new or starting, because whether you're Vira 1 or Vira 2, I'm just about to start a lot of these that do happen to start at the very beginning. So for example, Krama 1, you have Ayurveda Holistic Living. That's a workshop. Meditation Intensive. That's a workshop. Homework. So you can kind of see there, that's a kind of a block of training of introduction to the mind-body dynamics. Then next, Krama 2, understanding the body. Anatomy of Yoga is a workshop. Asana Immersion is a workshop. You have homework, class attendance requirements. Okay, then next, understanding consciousness. Weekend Intensive is a workshop, Leadership Development's a workshop, homework, and then Being Yoga is our Monday night training. Krama 4, that intensive that you see, that's a residential intensive that we do over the summer in Austin. And we didn't do it this last summer, as you can imagine. And then there is a homework. Krama 5, Seva means volunteering time. There's volunteer time, student teaching time, and then assessment. Again, the main reason why I'm showing this to you is to orient you and to kind of orient you to the curriculum guide that you all received by email. to help you take a look at it, and then I can later, answer any questions, and that you can simply be familiar with it. Let's see. Next one, D. This is a tuition guide, and this is in the curriculum guide. You can look at this at another time. But you'll notice, I just want to show you how it works. Up here in the green, you see Virarupa 1, Virarupa 2, and Acharya Rupa. Well, when you look there at Virarupa 1, the tuition is $3,800. Now, I don't want you to worry too much about those numbers that you see below, but those numbers, they do not one add to the other one, okay? It's more like, well, if I wanted to do Virarupa 1 for $3,800 and I wanted to add Krama 1 certification, then it would be $3,800 plus $1,599 comes to $5,399. So it's like $3,800 plus $1,799, or $3,800 plus $810, and then you slide out to the side, if that makes sense to you. And then there's information here. Tuition and fees do not include the cost of books or supplies. For residential intensives, travel and accommodations run between $1,800 and $2,000. Kind of depends on, that is not included in there. Let's see if there's anything else. But all those things that you see below, those are all things that you can add on. But that Virarupa 1, that includes those things that I just showed you. Okay, and then what do we have next, Steve? All right. This is the juicy stuff. Frequently asked questions. So my hope is that this maybe sparks some questions for you, or those of you that are in existing training programs, like if you have some questions around upgrading, maybe this will spark some questions for you, or, and you don't have to be afraid to ask a question. It's, there's no dumb questions. They're all really great questions. And sometimes it can take a while to kind of plant some seeds and gather more information, because, I can promise you that I don't think there's ever been anybody that's enrolled in Master's Path that didn't do it with some fear and trepidation, because it's new, and I think everybody will really agree with that. But I don't think there's many that will say, boy, that was sure been a waste of time. You won't hear people saying that. So basically, who are workshops for? Aren't they only for people that want to teach? But workshops are, in fact, for all students who simply want to learn more about yoga. There is no commitment to teach formally. You do have some requirements there, 20 hours of teaching, but that can begin to show up anyway. I've had people that were just so afraid. I have had that before. And one person in particular I had that was so afraid was really, she was at a very high level position at her work, and very responsible position. And I said, look, we do not need to do this. We can find other ways. And of course, she was pretty determined, and she said, I am going to do it. And it took her a while, but she did it. And has just done, her life really changed. She never really had any intention of teaching, but in fact, she actually ended up joining the Peace Corps. But I'm not saying that everybody does that, but that was kind of an interesting one. Why would I want to take workshops? Workshops are an effective method of going deeper into your practice. If you're interested in learning more about the physical practice or meditation, taking workshops can be a great way to do that. You can take workshops as a standalone. We have some really great workshops coming up. We have meditation intensive. But as far as getting, like, if you're interested in going through in it and having that accountability, getting a certification, and really being able to have all of that there, it's kind of the difference, I guess, like if you just were auditing, auditing something, and because Virarupa 1 in itself is like a course, and it's the difference kind of between auditing the course or actually, moving into the accountability of the course. But they are open to you to do that. And so I invite people that are like, I don't know about the Master's Path thing. I invite you to give it a try. I've got a meditation workshop coming up in January, and Ayurveda workshop. You can see on how do the workshops complement your general classes. They build on your general classes, going beyond your experience on the mat, beyond the impact of physical movement, but to really help you understand kind of toward Barbara's questions earlier on how that all works together. The next question, if you're just interested in the physical practice work right now, how do these trainings help you? Workshops like Asana Immersion truly help you deepen your physical practice, really helping you understand kind of alignment, form, breathing, and focus. If you go into a general class and if you've been taking either you're in Master's Path, a formal Master's Path, or if you've done a workshop here and there and really dove into it, when you go into a general class, man, it just big bang for your time and your buck and everything as far as what you understand. Workshops do not need to be taken in a certain order. Also, if you take workshops and then sign up for Master's Path, do the credits transfer into it. That we need to have a discussion. Generally speaking, what counts is once you formally enrolled in Master's Path. Like if you've taken a workshop here, a workshop here, a workshop here, the reason that there is an exception to that is because I have had people come in and do, say, a meditation intensive, and they're like, oh my God, I want to enroll in Master's Path. And then I tell them, like, we can either, they decide to do it then. I'm like, we can either add this in to your Master's Path, or you can just do it separate, and then you still have that to take later. And so I won't go through every one of these questions with you, Dee, if you can kind of scroll up. It's just, I want to show you that they're here. These questions were really put together by questions that have actually been asked. The relationship of yoga and Ayurveda, questions on certifications. If you are interested in teaching, how soon you can start teaching, and optional homework and that kind of thing. And let's see, keep scrolling down. Okay, I think that's good. So I know that that's a lot of information there for you, but I think it's good just to sort of see the general structure. And so I just want to pause for a moment and just see if there's any questions, anything that I can. And that it can be anything around what I just went through in curriculum guide, the Purusharthas, anything that I just went through.
Padma, I have a question. I think I know what Chikitsa means, but could you explain it? Because I'm like, I think I have a very simplistic answer, like it's yoga psychology. Well, yeah. Would you explain it? Because I think that's
a great question, Barbara. I know. And I'll tell you, like, man, it's, in English, it loosely translates as therapy, but I don't like that. You know what I mean? Because,
it's a word, right?
Do what?
The Sanskrit word, Chikitsa?
It's a Sanskrit word. And because, in the West, we look at therapy as though something's wrong. But really from the perspective of Chikitsa, it's just, addressing our humanity. And it's like tending the farm, it's like if a farmer has their, always refer to Ayurveda as the law of the farm, and Dharma is like the law of the farm, it's like you till the soil, you plant your seeds, and you do everything you need to do, irrigation, get all the best conditions possible. But even with all the best conditions possible, there's life is so fluid and nature is so fluid. And so Chikitsa, in the Western, the best English word is therapy, but really what Chikitsa is it's really learning to masterfully tend the farm, You know, it's like how to keep the crops producing, man, and how to keep it, keep it in this sort of regenerative place and living as vibrantly as possible. And I tell you, I don't like the word therapy because we do tend to associate the idea of therapy as it just seems to have such a, kind of a negative connotation. And I mean, I don't know, I grew up pro therapy on everything, so it has no negative connotation to me whatsoever. And, but it does kind of here. So my hope is that we're able to really educate everybody on that. And that's why I really appreciate that question, Barbara. And, because in essence, that's what it is, yoga therapy. But, it makes me cringe because then people go, I don't need yoga therapy. There's nothing wrong. And it's like, of course there's nothing wrong. I don't work with people that have something wrong with them. We work with people that have innate brilliance within them. And we just want to, till the soil and sow the seeds and make sure all the conditions are as favorable as possible. Hi, Neeti.
Hi, Padma. I actually have a question for the folks who actually talked about earlier, Denise and Araceli and others who said they've enrolled in Virupa 1 or who are actually at much advanced levels. They talked about, why they joined the program and what, what were the places where they felt the biggest changes. My question was more related to, and if someone can speak to that, that would be great, is what are some of the biggest challenges that they faced as they were going through the training, or at least one of them, which they thought was the one that they were able to overcome?
Oh, I love that. You guys go for it. Like give it some good stuff. Because there's lots of them.
I'll say it's overcoming our own patterns, our own, we have the same thoughts all the time, and we have a way of seeing things, a perception of how school is, or how, maybe a more linear perception, and this training is nothing like that. And so we bring to it our perceptions of how we think things are, and then we're trying to learn a new way, and there's a clash there of trying to integrate it. But what I see is that over time, I can see the two and not be conflicted over it. I just see my pattern, and yes, I still don't like seeing some of that, but it doesn't trigger me in the way that it did before. So the obstacles are still there, but they're not like these huge boulders or, that impede my progress. In fact, they kind of help me. They strengthen me in some ways. I was talking with Gracie about that. I was telling her about some things that are difficult, and I said, but I'm going to master time and space through this. And so my perception has changed, or is changing, on the obstacles that I perceive.
That's nice, Araceli.
Neeti. I have a rather extreme example. My husband died a month after I enrolled in Virupa 1. And if it were not for the discipline and the practice, even just naming my breath, I don't know how I'd be functioning. And honestly, the community and the teachings and what I'm learning and how I'm learning to handle my anxiety are what have kept me going and kept me functional.
Thank you, Sherry. Jackie?
I think I can kind of add to what Araceli and Sherry were talking about. It's funny, the things that become, that show up as the obstacles are not the things you're thinking they're going to be. It's the things you start seeing in yourself, start going, wait a minute, this is so hard, only because of what you're starting to see. but you stick with it, and you discover that all those things that are coming up, that's the fuel that you use to, that's the fuel for the fire. That's the growth stuff. And it's, it's hard, but it is so worth it. So worth it, because the tools you come out with on the other side, and there's no other side, there's no end destination, but the way that you grow, it's just like you start seeing things exponentially, and the edges of your space get bigger and bigger, and it's just so worth it.
Thank you, Jackie. Sue's gonna give you a good challenge. Y'all have all given good challenge. It's not a competition, but
it's really interesting. It is still for me, my perspective of what I'm doing is still kind of tangled, in the sense that I came initially for physical reasons. I needed some kind of program to repair many years of not taking care of my body, and discovered, as everyone has said, oh my goodness, there is a whole new world to discover, to explore. And the beauty to me is there's not an end. I'm an academic person, and my training is you do this, you get this degree, you do that, you do this, you do this, and then you're done. The terminal degree, we call it, which is a terrible idea when you think about it. I even thought it was terrible when I got it. And what is wonderful about this is to be surrounded by other people who are with you, who either have been where you are or are right there with you in it this minute. And to know that everybody around you is a student. That was one of the heartbreaks to me in academia, is it didn't focus in my mind on always being a student. We lost the beginner's mind, frame of reference. And this is just like being a kid again. Oh, there's something else. There's something new. Oh, I could do it that way. The hard part really is looking at yourself. That's pretty tough. But also expansive and informative, humbling, but wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So I have deep gratitude and encourage anyone, just put your toe in, one toe, just, and see what happens.
Oh my God, you guys are just like, y'all are so articulate. Your words, every one of you, your words are so beautiful. It's so moving. And it really is a community thing, and it's my life's work, and to hear your words, Sue, and all of your words, it's like, it's so lovely to hear somebody talk about your life's work that way.
It's wonderful to know someone like you that embodies and has such a beautiful life's work, and to see you live it. It's quite extraordinary. Thank you.
Oh, thank you guys. Does anybody else like to share some challenges with Needy?
I agree with what all has been shared, and the word application, like to actually apply or follow through, learning what that really means.
Oh, yeah.
Because to look at me, I'm very disciplined. I think anyone that would see me from my work or out in that seems to be a strength of mine, but I mean, and it is, but I've learned through this training, like I see all the ways that you see both sides, as everyone is saying, you see yourself, and then it's like the challenge of what is it like to really apply the practices, and then coming to, I think, what the real challenge, but the gem and the gold in it is learning that you're the one that gives it meaning. Because as you come up against those challenges and you apply the practices and you find those ways, that it's like not identifying with, well, this or whether it's what you can do on the mat, and you come to that stage of a pose, you're in asana immersion, and it's like it feels like you can't go any further. But when you actually apply and you actually stage and you have that moment of all of a sudden you feel the lightness, and then ultimately being led back to, well, I think I said it earlier, it's like you give the experience, that it's an experiential program, and so you're taught through experience, and then it's really yours. So but it is a huge challenge to see that it's you got to apply it, but that's also the greatest gift.
Thank you, Dee. And it is a challenge. I mean, I don't want to sit here and go, oh, because all their words, Jackie and Arceli, Sue, Dee, every Sherry, all of you that have expressed these things, they're really speaking to you about what a challenge it is, but they're also speaking to you from their growth and development. I hear in their voices just what great teachers they sound like, but when you really get down to the nuts and bolts of it, and it gets down to brass tacks, and you look at it and you think, wow, that's a lot of time, or I don't know if I can sit there and if I can do that. And, those very real, everyday concerns, I think I can really, connect up with what Dee said around being in that posture. If you're on your mat and you're going into a posture, and if everything in your mind is going, oh, I can't do that. That's too hard. That's too long. But if you just have that ability to see that, and you develop the discipline, and then you follow the principles, then you can actually do more than you thought. And the same holds true for application of time. Most of us, and I do this too sometimes, I don't know if I'm having enough time, when really if I would just have the discipline to not think that way, and get about being in the present moment, then it's amazing how time expands. So those are all very real challenges, that you run into. And I also know from my experience that when people take a first workshop with me, I don't know. Sometimes I don't know if they want to come back or not, I don't know. Y'all can all admit it. It's like, look, they're shaking their head. It happens. I would say at least 90% of the people, especially your first asana immersion with me, the whole weekend, or your first meditation to anything. Because, you suddenly sit there in a meditation with me and you're like, you're kidding. We're going to sit here this long, Most people come back to their mentor and they're like, I don't know that I can do this. I hear that almost every time. And I tell both Gracie and Dee, I said, oh, well, that's perfectly normal. That's exactly where, that's exactly where we hit up, and where we get. because the only way we're going to really grow is to really come right up to the edge of what we think we can't do. We have to be able to extend our reach beyond what our actual grasp is. And if we can't extend our reach beyond what our actual grasp is, then we find ourselves living in this kind of the thing that a lot of people talked about on here, sort of, what is it all about? It really is about extending beyond, what we know that we can move toward. And so it has its real everyday challenges, but I've done this long enough that I can guarantee you that there will never be any judgment from me. There will not be, and anybody on here can tell you that it has nothing to do with judgment, that it has everything to do with shattering old paradigms and being willing to open up to new, or like tilling the soil. And so it's definitely not. It's not easy. It's not. And I definitely want to be real honest with you about that. That it's not easy. But I can definitely tell you that it is 100% worth it. And I have no qualms with saying that or standing behind that as an absolute truth. It's not easy, but it's absolutely worth it. If it's, if the ideals that I've spoken about and the things that the others have shared are of some value to you and are important to you. And that it's all available there. And as my teacher says, we are all islands of excellence. All human beings are islands of excellence. It's just that sometimes a lot of stuff gets sort of poured over it. And the idea of the islands of excellence is not what we're talking about from the Western paradigm, but from those four spaces that I showed you earlier of Artha, Kama, Dharma, and Moksha. And so, are there any other questions, Gracie?
I don't have a question, but I did want to add in, and something that's quite common, a commonality I think across the board. Well, first of all, when you first talked to me about Master's Path, and we talked about teaching, I thought, oh my God, like teaching in front of people. Like talking in front of people. And I remember how overwhelming that felt and practically had a panic attack, just cried, going, what is she telling me, And it just seems so unattainable, so unattainable. And so I think that was the biggest challenge is getting stuck on thinking that teaching was sort of like the end point, or thinking that it was just about teaching. And just to kind of reiterate what you're sharing, that it's about the training, and that was a training within itself, and that was the mastery piece. But what I've come to realize about me, and what I've witnessed in a lot of mentees and private lesson students, is that their biggest challenge after they've said yes, the biggest challenge comes in where they see their training apart from their life. So like if it's like, here's Master's Path, and then here's my life, opposed to this is to enhance my life, that's where the challenge and the dilemma and the pull comes in. And so I've seen it in me, and I've experienced, I've witnessed it. And I think that would be one of the other biggest challenges, is that, well, how do I fit it in, opposed to, well, if I'm going to want, a life that's thriving and happy and just the way everybody described it, it's learning to integrate it. And that it's not apart from it. And so it's been incredible, and it continues to be.
Thank you, Gracie. And Gracie, as many of you know, she's our student advancement director, and Dee is our curriculum director, and both of them are mentors. And part of the training is that they step in to mentor, but they'll share with you that they're mentoring always as a student, just like I'm always, I'm in step in the shoes of Guru Devi, always as a student, it's this, and as servant, to be there to serve, and just I have a deep devotion, to what I do. And in that sort of integration that Gracie's talking about, I mean, we follow it through. There's no leaving you hanging. As a matter of fact, it's like, how's it going? How's the integration going? In a way, maybe not in those exact words, but so. Okay, my friends, if there's not any more questions, I'd like to encourage you to check out your email. Dee did get the PDF to you with the with the hierarchy and the Prusa Chartis there. I think that's just really cool. I love that, how that really lines up so beautifully. And also the curriculum guide is in there. If you have any other questions, do feel free to contact me. If you're on Marco Polo, you can Marco Polo me your questions, and just invite me to go there. If you're in Master's Path already and you're really looking at, I was kind of considering upgrading or whatever, please feel free to to check in with me on that. And other than that, I really appreciate you guys all showing up here and all your beautiful words and great questions. And it was so nice to meet you, Barbara Townsend, and to have Ashley here. And I see Sharon's here and Ellen. I bet Ellen's at her studio right now. So
no, I'm working, but I'm working from home.
And
I lost my visual. There's safe driving mode in front of me, but it's okay. I'm with you guys.
I know you are. I could just feel you there. I knew you were there.
Wanted to share one more thing, if I may.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, you hear me again?
Okay. We can hear you now.
Yes. So I'm currently reading a book you have been mentioning about community, and I'm only in the early pages, but I wanted to share with the group of people that are not enrolled in one of those pathways yet, is that real community is about vulnerability, and that is something you can be at Raja Yoga, and that is really, really something. Just wanted to share that with everybody. That's amazing.
Thank you so much, Ellen. Which book is that? The Stephen Covey book?
Yes, it's. I don't have it right now with me, but it's about.
That's going to be a central book for the Master Being Yogi.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad you've got it, because we're going to really. We're going to focus on that next month. So like building true community and all is super cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really, really good. And like the stages of community, and it's pretty great. Hey, Ashley. Thank you, Ellen.
You're welcome.
All right, my friends. It was great to see you. Some of you that have been coming to these Awakens a few times, I do want to give you a little nudge, and you know who you are. I see you smiling. Look, I didn't even have to call her out. It's time. It's time, beautiful. You've been to a few of these Awakens, haven't you?
Yeah, but not in a while. And of course, the wise Gracie invited me to make sure I would be here, because she just knew.
I know. It's time, my friend. All right. It's so great to see you, though. It really is.
I can't wait to come visit. I'm so I love Maine. I'm so glad I'm here. I can't imagine not being here, but I'm ready to get out of town.
Yeah.
I'm ready to get out of town.
Yeah.
So visit.
Am I going to see you for a little asana immersion tomorrow?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Right. I can't, for anybody that's like, go to the asana immersion. It's so worth it. So worth it.
Yeah, there'll be an email going out tonight with a video with me on there for you guys. Y'all can y'all can check it and click. It's a very short, condensed version with a donation there. So if you want to check it out, do it. So do make sure you look at it because there's been a few little changes. It's grown. It's a little bit bigger, but take a look. So I love you guys. Thank you all so much for being here. Please feel free to, text me or Marco Polo me with any questions. Let's just take a deep cleansing breath together. And let us take this time to acknowledge the presence of all saints, sages, gurus, teachers, and masters. May our minds be wise and clear. May our intention be pure. May our hearts be merciful and loving. Namaste.
Namaste.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Wherever, to all the states, wherever you guys are, and here. Bye.